Are you in the market for a used car, especially one that may be in the lower budget range? Well, I'll show you something I do whenever I'm looking to buy a used car. I was recently out looking at some used vehicles to buy, and so that's what made me think of doing this video. And what's the thing that I bring with me every single time? A cheap little code reader, just like this one here. Here are some examples of some inexpensive code readers that I use. This one's from Autel, this one's from Top Don, this is Foxwell. I don't worry too much about the names on the front. I just make sure that it's a an OBD2 code reader, and I like it when they have this IM button right here. And that's a quick emission monitor check, and I'll show you how I use it on the vehicle here in a second. But anything like this should work. I mean, you know, even this cheap little one, which I think it was only about 30 bucks, it has live data and things like that. I mean, I did a video diagnosing a P0171 on a vehicle just using this little guy. So anything like this definitely helps, and this is always what I bring. One of these I'll bring when I'm looking at a used vehicle. This little Toyota truck will be our test vehicle today, and I'll just go ahead and use the Top Don, and I'll show you how I use it when I'm looking at a vehicle. Now, the first thing I'll do is I'll ask the owner, hey, is the check engine light on? I mean, you should know that before you even get in the vehicle, whether the check engine light is on or not. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a deal breaker, but it's something you need to be aware of, and that's why we're going through these steps. We want to know what kind of issues are going on with this car. And when I'm doing these checks, I'm typically referring to a private party sale. Not necessarily a dealer, but you can do this stuff with a dealer too. But if you do a private party sale and you go home with that vehicle, that's it, you own it. You can't go back and get your money back or anything like that. Now, if it's a reputable dealer and there's an issue, typically you can bring it back within a certain amount of time and they'll take care of it. But you know, if there's a check engine light and it's not something you can fix or it's really expensive, yeah, you own that mistake. But the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the dash and I want to find that check engine light and make sure that it works. And most vehicles, when we turn the key on just to the on position but not start it, it's going to do a bulb check and it's going to light them all up. And so we want to make sure that that check engine light is lit up. And there it is right here. I think on this old car, I'll let the dinger stop. On this old vehicle, I think this check engine light will just stay on until we start it and then it'll go out. More modern vehicles may just light up like this, and then after a certain amount of time it'll go off. But in this case, it's going to stay on. And then I typically will look and try to find the SRS light, which on this case, it was over here and I saw it come on. It's doing its checks and then it goes out. If it saw a problem, then it would stay on. But those are some of the things I look for. Just do a bulb check by turning the key, find where our lights are, and make sure that they're working, because some unscrupulous people will take this apart and take the bulb out or put tape over it so that you can't see that check engine light. And like I said, once you get it home, now you own it. So we want to at least know ahead of time what we're getting into. Now that we did our bulb check, we need to find our OBD2 port. Typically it's going to be under here somewhere. Some vehicles it'll be hidden behind in here somewhere, but by law they're supposed to put it in here. But yeah, some manufacturers have gotten away with putting it under there. Now let's see, where is it on this one? On this vehicle, this truck, it's going to be right here. So that's where we're going to plug our little code reader in. Alright, so we'll take our key back. We'll just turn it to the on position, but we don't need to start it. We'll let the dinger stop. These can only go in one way, so if you try putting it in, it's the wrong way, turn it around. But we'll just reach down here and see if we can plug it in. I'll try to do this all real time, no editing. So we'll let the old Top Don fire up. Hopefully you can see it. Now that's how it defaults on this tool right here. Now all I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the IM button. This is what I do first, and it's going to scroll through and it's going to tell me if all the emission monitors are cleared and have tested and are good to go, or if any have not been run. Typically, if the check engine light has been cleared, because sometimes what people will do is they'll use a code reader like this, they'll go in, they'll clear the codes, and that resets all the emission monitors, and then you need to drive it for a while before those codes sometimes will pop up. Some codes will come up immediately, but others, it may take several trips before they come back, because it hasn't done its tests. And so that's where some unscrupulous people will try to do that trick. And so in order to figure out if they've done that, we do this, and we don't want to see a bunch of red X's. So we'll click that button. It's going to go through and find the correct protocol, which on this Toyota is going to be the ISO 9141 down the bottom. And there it is right there. So what we're looking for, the MIL, that's the malfunction indicator light. We want to make sure that that's off, and of course it's not lit up, so it's off. Our DTCs show 0. That means we don't have any diagnostic trouble codes or DTCs. And then the green checks, those are all the emission monitors, and that means they've been run and are good to go. But of course you can see we have one that is not. We have a red X on the evap. Now, this vehicle had a check engine light. It was a bad oxygen sensor. I didn't film it because it was pretty boring. It was intermittent bad oxygen sensor, and I went ahead and fixed it without filming. Sorry for those of you who normally want to see those videos. But I went ahead and cleared the codes, and then I took it on a test drive, and these monitors actually set pretty fast on this old vehicle. Sometimes it takes longer. I just did a really quick trip around, like 2 miles or 3 miles or something like that, and all these were able to set. But the evap one, that's typically the one that takes the longest, and it's the hardest to have clear. But what we don't want to see is a bunch of red X. As soon as I clear the codes, these are all going to be red X's, just like that one there, and that's a clear indication that somebody just cleared the codes and then brought it over there for you to look at. Another thing we want to look at is, we'll go out of here. We'll go to our OBD2 right there. It's defaulted to right there. I'm just going to click OK, and it's going to do the same thing. It's going to go through, find the correct protocol, and then we're going to read the codes. We're going to scan and see if there are any codes in here. So we can see that our malfunction indicator light, or our engine light as you might refer to it, is off, and that there are no DTCs or diagnostic trouble codes. And we can see that the readiness completed is 7, not complete 6. And what do we got? Not supported or 4. And we know just by looking that we have 1 still pending. And so we can hit OK, and that'll bring up our screen on there. We can read codes, and then if we want to erase them, that's where we would erase codes right there. But right here is where we read them. I'll just click enter, and we have current, pending, or permanent. If it's a 2010 or newer, it's going to set a permanent code. So even if you drive it and the problem goes away or you fixed it, that code is going to stay in there permanently until you go in and clear it. So that's what the permanent code is. The pending code means that it's usually something that it's a 2-trip detection, meaning you need to the vehicle needs to see the problem twice. Once it sees it one time, it sets a pending code. When it sees it a second time, that's when it sets the actual engine light, and that's where we code to the current. The current DTCs means that is turning on our engine light right there. So if we click OK, we go in there, it's going to tell us that there's no fault codes. Now the couple vehicles that I went looking at, I did the current, and of course there was no current DTCs, but I went to pending and I hit OK, and this one of course has no faults. But on the vehicles that I looked at, they several of them had pending fault codes, and at least 2 of them were for P0420s, which is a catalytic converter. And I mean, you want to know that going ahead of time, that hey, I already got a bad catalytic converter. Typically those don't go bad by themselves. Usually a poorly running engine or an engine that's burning oil, something like that, is what tore up the cat. And so you got to know that going in, that I might have to fix the cat, and I might have to fix other issues, drivability issues too. And so just by this quick little check to see, that can help you out. Just going by whether the check engine light is on may fool you, but in this case, 2 vehicles that I looked at, 2 different vehicles back to back, had pending check engine light codes for a P0420, and one of them had other stuff, like I think it was an evap code, and I can't remember what else it had, maybe some O2 sensors or something, I don't know. But they both of them, several vehicles, had a bunch of pending codes, and in both cases neither one of them had that check engine light on. And so if you were only just looking at the check engine light, that may have got you for a new cat and maybe some other drivability issues. And so that's what I wanted to point out, is that we want to not only look at our emission monitors, and that tells us whether the car just had all the codes cleared, but we want to look at our codes and see if we have any pending codes, because that's going to, you know, tell you, hey, am I going to have some repairs in my future? Am I going to have a check engine light as soon as I drive this thing home, or not? And then to unplug it, we just back out, you know, to the first screen like it is here, and then we can just simply reach down and unplug the thing, and it'll power it off. It gets its power right from the data link connector down there, so we don't have to worry about batteries or anything else on these little guys. All right, now we'll check out a car that has a trouble code. So the check engine light is on this vehicle, and we'll go ahead and switch tools. This one is another one from Top Don. No, they're not sponsoring it. But this is an updated version, I believe, of the one we have, or the one I showed you that I was using. But this is the ArtiLink 400. And this one has a LED in there, and it'll show green, yellow, or red, whether it's a no DTC pending or current, and then red for permanent. And so we'll fire this thing up and see what it looks like when we have an actual check engine light on. Just like before, we need to find our data link connector, which on this car is right there. And let's see if I can do it. Alright, there we go, it's plugged in. Just like before, it'll fire up. And there's our screen, so it looks a little bit nicer than the older version. We'll do the same thing. We'll do the IM test. Click that, see how this one looks. And right there we can see that our malfunction indicator light is lit up. So we have one DTC, and I guess this PD DTC, that should be pending. We can see we got green check marks everywhere except for the evap. So at some point this has been cleared, since there was a code in there, and then it was driven enough to clear those, but not that one. So let's go in, see if we can go back. Go over here to OBD2. We'll hit enter, and it's going to do the same thing. It's got to find the correct protocol. Comes up, and of course it tells us our mill status is on. We have one DTC. Readiness complete 6. Readiness not complete 1. Some of these little code readers don't get that quite right when they say readiness not completed. It's like they don't do the math right. You got to do the math. But this one's showing it correctly, where we have 6.1 and then 3 not supported. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And right here, this is where we can read codes, we can erase them, or we can go to the IM where we just were. So let's go up and read the code that's in here. And we got a P0117, engine coolant temperature sensor circuit low. And we'll just go back. And so we will hit erase code. So I'll show you how to erase it, and then we'll go check the IM, and we'll see what it looks like when somebody erases the codes and then runs right over and tries to sell you a car. So we'll just hit erase. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me go back. Let me go back real quick. So when we were going, if you notice, when we go to read codes on this version, it just says whether it's current, pending, or permanent right there. So it doesn't give us the 3 little places to look like on the older version. This one, it just goes there and it'll look at all of them and it'll tell you what you have. And if there's more than one, you see how it says 1 of 1 up here? If there's more than one, it'll show you which one. So it could be 1 of 2, 1 of 3, like that. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. So now we'll go in, we'll erase the codes. Yep, I'm sure. We hit OK. Turn engine on, yes. Ignition on, yeah, that's what I meant. Alright, we're cleared. Now we'll go ahead and read the codes. Vehicle has no fault codes. There you go. Sell you a car cheap. No check engine light. Alright, now we will back out of here. Sometimes these tools make me unplug it and then plug it back in to do these tests a second time. So we'll see if it'll let me. Look at that. We already got 3 clear. We didn't even do anything. But so you see how we have 4 check marks right there. CAT, and then we got O2 and evap. but no DTCs pending or current. So this is a clear-cut case of somebody clearing the codes right away. So anytime you see multiple systems that have not run the readiness checks, that means somebody just cleared those codes, and you're probably going to get another code pop them back up. So this is something to be aware of. Now we'll use the Autel and we'll check a vehicle that's good to go. At least it should be good to go because it's my car. So we'll just click the IM button and let it go through its thing. Now we got to remember that if somebody just disconnected the battery, like they were doing some work on the car, or they put a new battery in, that can clear the readiness monitors too. So you got to, take that into consideration. But anytime, we don't have all green check marks, those are potential, trouble codes that we might have to fix. But this is what I want to see. I want to see that the engine light's off, we have no DTCs, we have no pending DTCs, and we have all green check marks for every system that's on the vehicle. Those ones that are grayed out mean they don't exist on this vehicle. So this is exactly what I want to see when I'm doing these checks. Now, of course, I have more expensive scan tools that I could use, but this is my go-to tool. These quick little code readers are great for checking the emission monitors really fast. One button and bang, we know whether somebody just cleared the codes or not, or if we're looking at more, trouble codes popping up once you start driving the vehicle. And great for not only checking the codes, but checking, more importantly, pending codes. Codes that are not setting that check engine light right now, but are probably going to in the future. On the cars that I looked at that had those P0420 CAT codes, both of them showed that green check marks on the IM, on the emission monitors, and so I don't believe that the owner even was aware that they had a pending CAT code in either case. Because they didn't clear the codes, they clearly did not have any clue about check engine light stuff or anything when I was talking to them. So just be aware, you could be looking at future repairs just by not knowing, hey, whether we got a pending check engine light or not. $30 code reader can help you figure out, is it a go or no go? Do we want to continue looking at this vehicle, or do we want to go somewhere else? And as always, if the video helped you out, you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.